Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jadi Sala, and today I am going to be talking about moving to a new country alone. Now, moving to a new country can be super exciting, but at the same time, it can be extremely scary. Like, for so many people, when they take the decision to move to a new place, either a new country, a new state, it's usually sometimes, maybe because they're looking for something new, or maybe there's actually like a purpose to, so like for some people that move abroad for study, they're trying to, get better education. For some other people, it's just maybe change of environment or just like seeking new opportunities. And regardless of what anyone's reason can actually be, it is a very interesting experience. And then when you're doing it alone by yourself, no family, no friends, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be sharing a lot of the things that I've experienced and how I dealt with it in this video. So one of the things that you feel when you're moving to a new country by yourself is like I said earlier, it's like a balance between excitement and fear. And for a lot of people, the fear might actually outweigh the excitement. It just depends on where you are in life. I had so much going on before I decided to move. And when you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to try and move, but you don't know when it's going to be a reality. And imagine just the moment I got my endorsement for my visa, I was just like, okay, this is happening. Like, there's no turning back at this point anymore, because how am I going to explain it? Like, it's really happening, and I'm really trying to move out of my comfort zone. And I was excited, but I was still scared because I had to think about so many things that I was leaving behind. Obviously, my business, my family, my friends, and just like somewhere that I've always known, and now trying to explore a life in a totally new environment without a job, without family. And then fast forward to getting here, what a lot of people don't talk about is, you have like a varying degree of loneliness. I have to say, because one, you might actually be surrounded by people and then you can still feel lonely. I lived in a house share in my first year of moving to the UK, and you can imagine living in a house with 3 other people and then you still feel like you're living by yourself. Like, when you're coming from our kind of culture where we're a bit like into people's businesses and stuff, and then you're now thrown into an environment where everybody used to mind their business really, and then you're like, okay, so are we doing this? So you can imagine living in a house with 3 other people and everyone is just really minding their business. And then I moved into this apartment. I didn't have anything and I was so hungry, and then I asked one of the housemates that came into the kitchen if I could borrow his pot to just make something. And then his response was like, that split second pause that is so short but long enough for you to know that I don't really want you to use my stuff. And then eventually was like, well, yeah, I don't have a problem with you using my pot, but you have to use this thing. Then he brought out a spatula and then was trying to tell me, oh, like his pot is non-stick pot and that he doesn't want it scratched, so I need to use a spatula. And I was like, oh my god. The reality is finally setting in. And then I spent like I think a day just like thinking, whew, what have I done? So, and then another housemate came, and she was Nigerian. She had like the best personality ever. Shout out to you, bitches. And then she was like, oh my gosh, welcome to the house. And I was just trying to tell her that I was trying to cook. She was like, oh no, like use my stuff, use this and that. And I felt a bit relieved for the first time. Like, okay, so they're not all that bad. I don't know if it was because we're both blacks, but I guess she was just like a better human being, really. She just made me feel very welcome and okay. But even just that experience of just someone telling you can't use their stuff, I had to quickly like go and get my own set of kitchen stuff. Like I didn't even want to like get to that position where someone has to turn me down. So which is going to take me to like the next phase of moving abroad by yourself, depending on your situation when you move abroad. So for example, in my case, I moved without having a job, and then what that meant was that just coming, I had to start to figure a lot of things out, especially when it came to what I was going to be doing for a living. I had a business back in Nigeria, and I started to really think about, do I want to like establish my business here in the UK and then still maintain the army in Nigeria, or do I want to go back to get a 9-to-5, just considering the fact that I hadn't even interviewed like for like 10-11 years. Prior to then, I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I want to do this. So I spent like the first like 2 months ish really just trying to figure things out and just trying to take a decision on what I wanted to do in my life. So you might spend like a phase just doubting some of your decisions about the step that you have now just taken, and other times you might just feel like, okay, maybe you came for a purpose. So for example, some of my friends that came for work, what you find is that a lot of things you're like thrown into the deep end the moment you come. Like there's so many things that you now have to like try to figure out. Like if you didn't get an apartment, first of all, before you came, you'd have to sort out your apartment, and at the same time trying to juggle a new job where you're like fresh in the environment and fresh on the job. It can be very overwhelming. Like you would be trying to deal with imposter syndrome if you suffer from one, and then also trying to learn new things in your company, and then also trying to settle in, because a lot of the times when you're coming on the sponsorship visas, you have like very little window to just settle in, and it can be very, very overwhelming. Let's talk about like again, just being homesick. And for a lot of people who have like close-knit families and also have like really tight friends before they moved abroad, there's that thing that even though you might not be seeing all your friends regularly, even when you're like in your home country, there's just that feeling of comfort that if you wanted to see them, you could just like reach out to them and then drive out to go and see them. You now start to think about how your relationship is going to evolve from being able to see them on a regular basis to now just maybe doing video calls. And the truth is, for some people, these solid friendships that they've had in the past, they can sometimes even drift apart because of distance, because everyone is now really just moving on. You're dealing with your new life abroad, trying to settle in, and then just trying to do things in your new country, and then they're also just trying to get used to the fact that you're no longer around, and they're just moving on with their lives. So sometimes relationships can drift apart, and sometimes you just have to evolve the relationship to make sure that you guys maybe still spend some time in reaching out to each other. And this also goes to family, and this is the other part I'm going to talk about. So like I'm very close with my sisters, and even though before I moved to the UK, I only had one sister left in Nigeria, and we used to try to make our time to, meet up and see each other and just plan to do things. And just being away from her, this past 1 year plus has not been very easy for me. Sometimes I feel like, I just want to see her because, there are like some inside jokes that only your family members get. And when you spend time with them, especially someone like me that I'm a core introvert, I'm like very extroverted when I'm with my siblings, and I sort of like miss that sometimes. And even though you're speaking to them on the phone, it still doesn't erase the fact that you can still feel very, very lonely. Another way you can feel lonely is when you start to go through stuff and you are not able to express yourself to the people around you. Let's say you're sick, or you're like just dealing with life in general. Like, I remember like when I eventually made up my mind that I was going to start to look for a job, and then my first few interviews, I was getting a lot of rejections, and then it started to really weigh me down, so to speak, and I really wasn't sure how I was going to deal with it. Like, I remember like a particular week, I didn't even like open my curtains to allow light in. I stayed in the dark for like 1 week straight. I only ate, went downstairs to get my food, and I didn't want to even do anything else. And so many people didn't even know that I was going through this, but maybe some of my family members would have observed that I wasn't answering their calls because I really just didn't feel like talking to anyone. So if you're like going through stuff, nobody really knows. At the end of the day, you realize that when you take this kind of step by yourself, you have to be ready to be self-reliant, because no one is coming to rescue you at the end of the day. So if you have to cry, there were days that I cried in my room. There were days that I walked out to like an open field and I cried just to let whatever pain I was feeling out. And after doing that, and I felt very relieved, I was like, okay, yes, now I can now start going to figure out how I'm going to get out of this situation or whatever challenges I was facing. So you go through that phase where you just feel like nobody really gets you, and that kind of loneliness sometimes can lead to depression if one is not careful. And it's one of the things that when I was moving, and a lot of people were telling me, oh, don't live in London, it's expensive, don't do this. And I kept saying, you know what, like, there are times that if you are by yourself and all you're also seeing is just trees and bushes and forest and really just quiet nature, like, it can help you to accelerate your depression. So like, just knowing myself, I'm like, see, I'm just going to leave where I can see people, even if they're only outside my window, but I can see a bit of life going on. And that's one of the parts that a lot of people don't talk about when you move abroad. So there's the phase of trying to make new friends, and you find out that a lot of people that you're trying to talk to already have like their own friends, and sometimes you can start to feel like maybe you're like a third wheel. And that can be very interesting. It can be a very interesting place to be in. Making friends for some people might come like really easily, and for some other people it might take a while. Like, I think apart from my former housemates and maybe 2 other people, I can't really say that I've made any new friends since I've been here. And that's just reality of just being in a different place. So how have I been able to make the few friends that I have here? It's just by once in a while saying yes to a few existing friends when they invite me out, and then I get to maybe meet some other people, and then maybe out of like everyone present in this place, I may end up just connecting with just a single person. And I think that's okay. In as much as you can be an introvert like me, if maybe making friends is one of your goals, you have to once in a while just make that effort to say yes to where maybe people say let's hang out or let's have a drink, and it may even be some of your work colleagues that you may have to start to make friends with, and just being open enough to say yes to some of these invitations might actually help. For some other people, it may just be like finding a hobby. So for some people, they like to swim, they like to play tennis, they like to play basketball, and they go to places where they are playing these games, and eventually they can actually meet people who have similar interests, and then at the end of the day they end up being friends. For some people, it may just be like random things that you do on a daily basis or on a regular basis, like going to the gym or going to the church. That's sort of like where some people meet people that are like-minded as well, and then they can start to make friends from there. Get used to eating by yourself. You get used to not even hearing your own voice on some days, and that should you have to get used to those really quiet times where nothing is really happening and it's just you alone, either in your room or in your house, or really just trying to figure life out in general. So I'd say, like, when you move abroad, like, it just depends on so many factors, why you've done it, what your motivations are, what your personality type is like, how much funds you also have also plays a role in how you feel when you take some of the steps. It'll be interesting to hear what your experience is like if you've moved abroad, or you've maybe even just moved to a different state, maybe within your home country, but you've done this alone. I'd like to hear your story about what your journey's been like. What's it like paying bills alone? What's it like navigating life in a new environment alone for you? This has been my journey. It's constantly evolving. I have no regrets so far that I've done this, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it can be a very lonely journey. Anyways, we've come to the end of this video, and if you have enjoyed this content, make sure you like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye.